As you can see, or maybe not, I'm continuing working on this little Arbor press. And I cut off these two surfaces. I also cut off the corners here on the back side. I drilled holes. And of course I tapped some threads in here. And I started working on this plate. That of course comes here and it will hold the ram in place. And while cutting off these two surfaces, again I made a little mistake. I cut off too much. So this ram sticks out 3 mm more than it should be. But if I make a slot here in this top plate, I think it will be an easy fix. And I also made this little washer to hold the shaft in place, and that seems to work very well. So let's make a start on this part. Over to the shaper. Installing the part in the little vise here is not really an option. There's way too much stick out. The cutting forces will push the part out. So the angle plate it will be. Made in Germany clamps. I just finished drilling the 4 holes in this top plate, and I think while I'm here and set up on the milling machine, I may as well cut this slot in here. Now this cutter will make a slot 40 mm wide and I need 38, so I will have 1 mm more each side, but I think that's a good thing. Every time I use this cutter, I'm impressed by how well it performs. This is absolutely fantastic. I take a 1 mm depth of cut with this one, which means we take off 40 mm wide and 1 mm deep in one go. For a small machine like this, I think it's really impressive. And the fun is, every time I use it, the shape here changes. Because of these nasty burrs that you see here, they are rubbing on the surface and they cut out the surface a little bit. And even if the little cutting thing here is chipped off or whatever is dull, it just keeps on going. It's really impressive. But to take these burrs off, I would like to try something I never did before. In here is now a center drill that I cut the point off, and I would like to sweep it along this edge here to see if I can use it as a deburring tool. Here goes nothing. That's great. Now I have a deburring tool that leaves a burr. So now I know that deburring with a center drill works a little bit, but it doesn't give you this wow effect. Question: does it fit? I think that could work. Let's find out. I think we can call this thing success. Of course, I had sometimes little bozos, but I think it's also part of the fun. But all in all, I'm happy with the results. Now, in the comments, several people pointed out that these are really nice pieces of steel and they're really hard to find. And that's correct. These pieces of steel are a unique find, of course. As you may know, or maybe not, I work on a barge. And because of the regulations were changing, this old barge we were working on for 6 years, I think, 6 or 7 years, wasn't conform anymore and had to go to the scrapyard to be cut in pieces, which is of course a very painful
moment, because if you work on a barge, after some time you become one with all these systems on board. Normally you see it as one barge, one ship, but when you work on it, you see it as different parts, different engine, different pumps, different systems. And it may sound maybe a little bit stupid, but the barge becomes a little bit as a family member. And we had to do what we tried to avoid for many, many years. Arriving to the scrapyard, we had to beach this barge. But before we had to say goodbye to our well-loved barge, the boss allowed us to take everything we wanted, everything we needed. So I took some flanges, I took some pieces of pipe and also these big pieces of steel. They were on board and I never knew what they were meant for, but this steel is perfectly legal, of course. I think if you want to buy the steel to make something like this, it's not a good idea. It's probably way cheaper to just buy an Arbor press. Still expensive. And now something completely different. I received stickers this week from Al in the United States. And Al, he's a retired welding teacher. I think he's even a master welder. So Al, thank you very much for your stickers. Of course, one of them will find its place on the cheap door. And here goes the heating system again. And Rolf, in Sweden, he watched me wasting my time installing these plastic hoses on my scale model or whatever little engines, and he thought I needed a hose clamp. And he's right, because I wanted to make one since a long time now. And he sent me this one. Now, he made this from recycled materials, 100% homemade. He also sent me this wire that goes with it and a test piece that shows that indeed it works. Now, there's absolutely no doubt if Rolf makes something that it works. But can I work with it? Let's find out. So as you can see, if Rolf in Sweden makes something, it works. So Rolf, thank you very much for your fantastic tool. And of course, Al in the USA, thank you very much for your sticker. Coffee, much better.